Druid spells. Druids have a lot of good spells and a lot of bad spells. The reason why Druid spells are sometimes good and bad is because they're limited based on your form, and also the total limits as to exactly what they do. So we're going to break down all the Druid spells from goodest to worst to worst, and kind of go through there. Starting off with Gust of Wind. So Gust of Wind is going to go to the bottom of the sometimes take category. You can also technically scroll this if you want, so you can carry Gust of Wind scrolls, which is good enough. Actually, I'll leave this in scroll tier. Gust of Wind is something that you don't often use, and you're not going to use very regularly, but it gets rid of ground effects. So a monster casts Auto Sphere of Dancing, Gust of Wind it away. A monster puts down a crazy fog you don't like, Gust of Wind it away. It's very nice. You're fighting golems that cast Cloud Kill, Gust of Wind it away. It's a good ability. Just bear in mind that it will also Gust of Wind away your friends' spells as well. So just make sure you're paying attention when you use it. But it's extremely useful for doing like you're doing like an R10 Raven at the Door, where you have like the double golems at the end and they're dropping cloud kills everywhere. Just Gust of Wind them away and you've got no problem. Also in the scroll tier is Bears and Bulls Mass. We talked about this in the Wizard one, but these are only here because, one, Bull's Strength is useful for casting on, like, I guess technically pets and summons. Don't use those, but it's technically useful for that. And also because it's good for the Hounds in Hounds of Zoriat, and also Bears and Bulls together are useful for getting through specifically the quest Home of Memory. If you do it on a very high difficulty, like R10, there's a door that has a check where to get through it, you need to cast or have the spells Bull's Strength and Bear's Endurance on you, and this lets you go through without clearing the side hallways, which is very nice on the highest difficulty in the game. Cat's Grace has no such use. Goodbye, Cat's Grace. Just drink a potion. This is a 6th level spell. This is a mass one. Contagion is a spell that goes in the D tier. This spell also has no real use. None of the diseases are scaled, and their DCs are like 13. So you can't actually use Contagion for anything. It has no purpose in the game. It's a cool concept to inflict somebody with a disease, but the disease doesn't spread, the disease doesn't do anything. Cure Critical. Yeah, it's going in the always take category. Cure Critical Wounds heals you and your health. It's very, very good. Obviously, it's a good spell, so we're going to put that one up here. I don't think I really need to explain why Cure Critical is good. But yeah, it heals your health and it heals allies, so keep that in mind. Cure Light Wounds. I'm going to also put this up here. Bear in mind, it's obviously worse. This is going to be probably on the bottom of the always take. All the cure spells are going to make it up here because they're all really valuable and really useful. But yeah. Eagle Splendor, complete garbage. I don't recommend the spell at all. And it's gonna sit here with the Cat's Grace. Finger of Death. Now, Finger of Death is pretty good on Druid. I wouldn't say you always need to take it. Necromancy DCs can be hard to come by, so instant killing can be difficult depending on what type of Druid you're playing. That being said, it is nice to have sometimes, and Druids often will have some spare spell slots, so you can definitely consider throwing this one into the mix. Fire Shield. Holy guacamole, this is an amazing spell. What Fire Shield does is it gets you the ability to cast Fire Shield Hot or Cold, which gives you half damage from one of those two elements. So if you have Fire Shield Hot, you take half cold damage. If you have Fire Shield Cold, you take half fire damage, which is great. So that's why you use it. It just has so much utility. It's fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. Firestorm is going to go in the always take category. Firestorm is just so good. It is one of the best damage spells that Druids and Favored Souls and Clerics get. It has an extremely absurdly large AoE. It is outside of the visual. It's about 10% outside the visual, so even where the fire isn't hitting you, you're still hitting people. Just super high damage, good range. The only thing about it is it has a bit of a delay on it, but once you get used to it, it's not a problem. You can lead monsters into the delay, and yeah, just a fantastic, useful spell. Fire Trap, unfortunately, is not the same. The damage on Fire Trap is very low, and you have to lure monsters into the trap, which you could argue is the same as Firestorm, but this won't kill everything, and this will kill everything, so you making your decision is pretty easy there. Another spell that I'm going to put, I don't know if I'm going to put in the always take category, but I'm going to put in the sometimes take, Flamestrike. It is one of the best spells you can get on Druid, okay? I highly, highly, highly recommend Flamestrike. However, it's pretty much useless on any type of melee character. You don't really need it. And on top of that, you do and eventually probably stop using Flamestrike later on. But it's a 4th level spell for Druid. You get it pretty early, so it's very, very, very good. Yeah, I could see swapping Cure Light Wounds as well. We're going to make some adjustments and changes as we go up the list. Flaming Sphere, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I'm going to put it in the D tier. There's a very cool thread on the forums about Flaming Sphere, if you'd like to see that thread about what you can do with it. you can put that there. Other than that, I'm going to put this spell where it belongs, in the useless category. Fog Cloud's going to go in the rarely take category. Having access to concealment on a druid can be quite nice, so if no one else in your party can do that, no one has blur, no one has any items, it can be useful for boss fights and that sort of thing. It's important to note that True Seeing does not eliminate this concealment, so for bosses that have True Seeing, you can drop this on a tank, and it makes it so it protects your tank. Quite nice. The stat buff spells, Fox's Cunning and Fox Cunning Mass, again, are going to go down here in the D tier. They pretty much have no purpose or use, so we can kind of get rid of both of those in one fell swoop. I'm just going to take off my headset because it's uncomfortable. Next is Greater Dispel Magic. I'm going to put that in the always take category. You're going to have the spell slots for Greater Dispel Magic on pretty much every druid you take, and this spell is absolutely fantastic. What it does is it allows you to turn off spell wards, which is really useful. Pretty much throughout the entire game, the spell wards level 16 and beyond in different quests, and disabling them gives you extra experience points. So there's no downside. You get rid of a trap, you get more XP. That's enough said. Heal. Heal is one of the best healing spells in the entire game, so you know it's going to go up here. I'm going to definitely, if I had to organize these, put this down here. Heal. It heals for a huge amount of hit points, and it cures all of the negative side effects on a person, except for, like, negative levels. Great. What a good spell. Just fantastic. Always take this one. Every druid should have it. Ice Storm. I'm going to put this in the probably sometimes take category. Ice Storm is okay if you're playing as a cold druid, and every other time it's kind of useless. So again, it's good for cold druid, and even then, you're only going to sometimes cast it. So, not that great. Anger of the Noonday Sun. Big time, always take. This is, no wait, this is, always take? No, never mind. Sorry, not always take. Sometimes take. So what Anger of the Noonday Sun does, I made a mistake, is it allows you to bypass fire immunity when you cast fire spells. So if you cast Anger of the Noonday Sun on yourself, it's a buff that then lets you bypass fire immunity. However, if you are in fire elemental form and you're using the Season's Herald tree, you automatically get this. So you don't necessarily need to take this spell, you get it for free. Same thing with Mantle of the Frozen Soul. Both these spells are going to go here. If you're actually using the Season's Herald tree, you don't need these spells, but if you're not using the Season's Herald tree, you will need to put these on so you can get your bypass on here. It's kind of interesting that druids just kind of get it. It means you can get the fire bypass and other stuff if you are just casting, maybe using the Fade Arc Illusionist tree, which is pretty common for druids because Season's Herald is a interestingly bad tree. Animal Growth. I'm going to put this in the, probably up in the always take category. I think the animal growth is extremely useful, and even, like, everybody can kind of take it. It has a fantastic effect where it increases the strength and constitution of your druid animal form. So if you're a bear or a wolf, it's just fantastic. It also works on shifters. The reason I say always take is this is a 4th level spell, and druids don't have a lot of good 4th level spells, so it's really easy to fit in. And on top of that, you can cast it even if you're not in animal form yourself. If there's a shifter in your party, you just boom, bump up their stats. Like it's a no-brainer. It's a good spell. It's useful, so I would recommend it. Baiting Bite. Boom. It's going to go up here in the always take. This is going to be tough because, like, obviously, you know, these are going to be a little bit specific, but it's a fantastic spell if you're a wolf. Maybe I should have made more categories for, like, if best for wolf, druid, whatever. But yeah, wolf spells, obviously, you're going to take pretty much every single animal form attack that you get in that particular animal form, with a few exceptions. And Baiting Bite is no exception. Baiting Bite, what it does is it allows you to hit the monster and then make a bluff check based on your spot. Now, I don't know if this actually works, the based on your spot. I think it actually still just used bluff, but don't quote me on that. It might be working just fine. The big ticket about that is not only does it let you sneak attack monsters, but on top of that, it also just hits really, really hard. So it has extra critical threat range and multiplier on it, making it quite good. So great spell for Wolf Druid. Next is Body of the Sun, and this is going to be one of the always takes for Fire Druid. Body of the Sun makes it so you passively radiate fire damage. Now the fire damage doesn't scale too high, but what matters is not the scaling, but its effect. It is a fire spell, it's passively damaging nearby monsters, and because it's passively damaging nearby monsters, they're getting the fire immunity passively stripped off of them. So if you're running through a pack of monsters, so like a bunch of undead that are immune to fire or something, you're running through it, and then all of a sudden, you're damaging the monsters, their fire immunity is getting stripped off. So when you turn around and start to hit them, you've already got that. So great effect, great spell, would recommend. Bull Strength going down here, because again, you want the mass. The individual Bull Strength, not really great. Call Lightning. Now, Call Lightning, I think, is a very, very good spell. It scales pretty well, although you kind of stop using it. I'm going to put this down here at the bottom of the Always Take. I think this is one of the better Druid spells for damage. Very, very good ability. It does a lot. It scales pretty well. I don't know if you take the Master of Nature on Spellcaster Druid. Maybe you do for the extra catch levels, but the increase in catch levels from the last pass has made this update 51 has made this a better spell in general. A spell I'm going to rank higher than this, which might surprise some folks, is Call Lightning Storm. It's like Call Lightning, but it passively does the amount of, or more damage than Call Lightning, all the time. It's very, very, very good. I would recommend the spell. It's useful, even if you're playing as a Fire Druid, as just like a passive. You just throw it out, and you're going to be constantly hitting people with lightning damage. There's pretty much no downside, and even still, as Fire Druid, this gets more interesting because Fire Druid reduces the power level of water spells, and not of lightning spells. So you can kind of just throw this on before the fight starts, or as you're walking in, just jump cast it out, and then you're all set. Cold Breath. Cold Breath is a sometimes take. This spell is interesting. It is an animal form only. You have to be a winter wolf, but the damage that it deals is reasonable. It does a d6 damage per level, which is not amazing, but it's reasonable. The selling point is that it has no saving throw. It's pretty much always useful if you're playing in wolf form. It has a near instantaneous cast time, so you don't need Quicken or anything else like that. You just have to be in wolf form, and wolf gets the ability Essence of the Shrike to get some more area of effect damage. At endgame, not that great, but during the leveling process, kind of useful, and in my opinion, if you're trying to level up Season's Herald Druid, I found that going into Winterwolf form for a good chunk of the leveling process and kind of letting this spell carry you is very, very nice. I've used it quite a lot. Just actually playing as a spellcaster Druid, because some of the other spells, they're a lot of single target. You're going to notice Druids have a lot of single target spells, and Icy Breath having a nearly zero cooldown and having no save has a lot of versatility. Next is Creeping Doom. I'm going to put this one up here. This spell is not as good if you're in fire, but as a cold druid, it's an AoE acid damage over time, which doesn't sound that good, but it is nice for situations where like raid bosses, long fights, and especially if you're playing as the poison druid, or poison and acid druid, which you can do if you want to focus on some of the epic stuff. There's some good epic poison and acid combinations, and it is another good one to mix or throw in the mix. So not the worst spell, not the best spell. Actually, I'm going to put this maybe in sometimes take. Yeah, I'm going to put this down here. It's a spell that you can probably not or get away with not using, but it does give you some extra damage. So yeah, I'll move that down there. I just convinced myself it doesn't need to be up in the Always Taken. Dominate Animal. This spell is so narrow in its application, I don't think it's very good at all, and it has the only use of basically being able to charm vermin. I guess you could use it, but I'm going to put it down here. I think it's probably too niche to use. It's very rare you're going to encounter this problem, so I would not recommend this one too much. It's also a higher level spell, which is annoying. Eagle Splendor, going down here. Earthquake. Oh yeah. Earthquake's one of the best druid spells. It's a crowd control that you throw on the ground and it knocks monsters down. One of the downsides with Earthquake is because it is a ground spell on the higher Reaper difficulties, it kind of sucks because it's barely going to work. But if you're playing in Reaper 5 or below, you toss this bad boy on the ground and monsters are constantly getting knocked down. It's one of Druid's best crowd control abilities and it's very, very useful. The only problem with Earthquake is that Druids right now do so much damage with their magic. You can get away with just not even using Earthquake because you can blow stuff up. Important to note, Druids are very, very potent spellcasters right now, especially in Epics. So, how often do you see Earthquake? Well, why would I cast Earthquake when I can just cast some other spells and one-shot the entire room? So it's tough. Elemental Body. I mean, I guess this goes in the Always Take category. So this is a weird one. I'm going to put this in the Always Take, but at the bottom. This is basically only good if you're in Elemental form. But the thing is, once you get to 7, 8, and 9, almost every spell in the Druid 7, 8, and 9 list is terrible. So, you'll have space for Elemental Body, no problem, if you're playing as an Elemental Druid. So you should take this because it gives you defenses. If you're not playing an Elemental Druid, don't take it. There's no downside to this effect. So, it's very, very weird. Next is Carrion Swarm? No, I can't remember the name of the spell, actually. I should know this. Creeping Doom and I don't know. It's a worse version of Creeping Doom, so I'm going to put it a little bit lower. It's another acid damage over time spell. These two spells are good because they actually have scaling damage over time, as opposed to some of the other spells, so they're not actually that bad. So if you're worried and you're like, wait a minute, Strimtom, you said damage over time spells are bad. That's what you said Mouse Acid was bad. Context sensitive. These spells do a lot more damage per individual tick, so they can be quite useful. Fire Seeds. I'm going to put Fire Seeds probably at the top of the sometimes take. I don't love a lot of the fire spells. Actually, I'm going to put it down below Flamestrike. I think Flamestrike is a better spell than Fire Seeds in a lot of cases. Fire Seeds, basically, you shoot out these 3 seeds that explode on contact, or you can drop seeds in the ground that basically become traps. I think that Fire Seeds, it's got a slow animation, slow visuals, long time to cast, and the area of effect is worse than Flamestrike. On top of that, since it's all fire damage, it's not even like you can bypass fire immunities like Flamestrike can. So in general, I think Flamestrike's going to be part of Fire Seeds. It's one of the reasons why Fire Druid feels kind of clumsy, because Firestorm is amazing. When Firestorm's on cooldown, you have to cast some clumsy spells, so there's that. Okay, next is the Cold Fire, whatever this is the buff. Anyway, keep this one. This is an always take. Basically, it buffs an ally or yourself with a, or you cast this on anybody, basically. And it buffs them up so that when they attack monsters, it increases the vulnerability of fire damage to the monster. Very, very useful. Or is it cold damage? One of the two. Fires of Purity. I cannot remember the name of the spell. But yeah, you just take it and cast it on people. A lot of druids don't even remember to do this, but it's pretty good. And I would recommend when you get the chance to use this ability when you can. Next is Freezing Spray. Freezing Spray is going to go up here somewhere. Probably up here. What this does is it is a water elemental exclusive spell, and when you cast it, it increases the damage that monsters take from cold damage by either 10 or 25%. I don't know. It's some really big number. This spell is insane. Combine this, so you open up with the Freezing Spray, and then on top of that, you hit them with any other cold spells. Magus of the Eclipse abilities. We're talking the Primal Avatar cold spells. We're talking the Draconic Dragon Breath. Maybe you're out here spamming Ice Flowers or something else. Just insanely useful debuff. And on top of that, you're not the only cold caster you're going to be in your group. A lot of people cast cold spells. Every alchemist is running Vein Freeze, stuff. There's a lot of cold sorcerers out there. You might even meet a cold warlock along the way. So just very, very useful ability. Next is Frostbite. And this one is D tier. The reason why this is D tier is because what this does is it allows you to, while in Winter Wolf form, get a little bit of extra cold damage on each attack. And that sounds kind of good, but it's a D6 damage. By the time you get this, you also have this spell, Magic Fang, which is adding 3 to hit and damage. 3 to hit and damage. So a D6 is 3.5 average damage. This gives you hit chance. And this spell keeps scaling, which is why Magic Fang, I'm going to put up here, right next to right next to Animal Growth. Amazing if you're in animal form. You should always be casting Magic Fang if you're in animal form. If you are a level 20 Druid, Magic Fang is, in a lot of cases, better than Deadly Weapons for a one-hander. And if you're a level 30 Druid, it's borderline better than than Deadly Weapons for a two-handed weapon. So, amazing ability. Would recommend Magic Fang. Creeping Cold, or Greater Creeping Cold and Creeping Cold, I'm going to put in the sometimes take. I think these spells are quite useful, but I don't think they have the same amount of impact as some of the other ones. They're damage over time spells, so they're like okay if you're running past mobs and throwing them on trash. So for older quests, it's not too bad. Think about quests like Spawn of Whisper Doom, where there's like a few monsters in each hallway, and you can like Creeping Cold one and Greater Creeping Cold the other, and you're running past, and they're just going to die as you run through. But more modern quest design of 10 monsters in a room, these spells only affect one monster, so that's pretty much all you got here. Good for raid bossing and getting some extra damage out, but that's pretty much it. All right, Greater Vigor and Vigor Mass. So Greater Vigor, I'm going to put up here in the always take. I think Greater Vigor is fantastic. I think Greater Vigor Mass as well. These ones are just really good, and you have space for them. You're going to notice that a lot of the spells are not making it up here, because there's a lot of bad ones in this list still. So you'll probably have space for these. The Vigor spells are interesting. They increase their duration the longer you cast them. So if I cast Greater Vigor once, and then again, and then a third time, the actual duration of the spell just keeps increasing the heal over time on your character. And so you can just keep spamming this out as a druid and keep putting it on the tank. So if you die, you can have your heal over time lasting for a minute, which is very, very cool. Same thing with regular Greater Vigor. The other Vigors are not going to be treated as well. Harrowing Pack, I believe There's 3 different pack spells. I'm trying to remember which one's which. But I believe... Oh, yeah, this is Harrowing Pack. So Harrowing Pack is the only spell I'm going to put in the rarely take tier. There's not a lot of other good spells, but Harrowing Pack, what this does is it gives all of your summonable creatures, your pets, and your hirelings the ability to trip monsters. It is the only good pack spell, in my opinion. All the other ones are bad. So it makes it so there's a chance that they will trip monsters. So if you happen to have your wolf running around, maybe you've got like Frogo with you or a couple other people's, you got some stuff going on. It does not affect your actual allies, and it does not affect your character, only your summonables. So since summonables are usually garbage, I wouldn't recommend taking this. But if you just happen to have it out, it's not too bad. Okay, Howl of Terror. Now this is an interesting one. Sometimes take. Howl of Terror is an amazing, unbelievably good spell on Warlock and Shifter, because Warlocks and Shifters can use it in whatever form they want. Druids need to be in animal form, and Winterwolves can't always make good use of this because it's an enchantment spell, and it's obviously a wisdom spell. And most wolf characters don't have enchantment or wisdom, which makes it a little bit difficult. Versus Warlock, where it's a charisma enchantment, where you're already casting mass hold, so you have the enchantment DCs. And for Shifters, it's just a DC 18 plus wisdom plus enchantment, which means you can play it on a cleric or some other character, or even just straight up play a druid, and then play as a shifter druid and have Howl of Terror whenever you want. Howl of Terror is a little bit better than Earthquake in that it affects more things. You can Howl of Terror Reapers as an example because it's a fear effect. It's a fear that causes monsters to stay in place. They're basically stunned, but they're not counted as helpless. You don't get any extra damage. Incredibly, unbelievably good spell, but not from the spell list. The spell list requires you to be animal form. The only reason I would recommend taking Howl of Terror is if you are playing in wolf form and you have the 18th core that allows you to get extra stats when you Howl of Terror, but that's about it. Next is Ice Flowers. Oh, and about that core, just so you know, it activates on any Howl of Terror, which means if you have the Shifter Howl of Terror, and then you also have 31 points spent in the Wolf tree, then when you use Howl of Terror from the Shifter tree, it will proc that effect and give you the extra, like, critical damage, or critical chance and, spell power in your regular form on your druid, which gives you all the extra cold damage, so some cold druids are doing that. Ice Flowers. It's the best cold druid damage spell. You know what's going up here. Ice Flowers has a 2-second cooldown, so you're constantly just going Ice Flowers, Ice Flowers, Ice Flowers, Ice Flowers. It still has the weird delay, but it has poison, or not poison, cold and force damage, so it hits pretty much everything in the game. It's addictive. Once you get Ice Flowers, you will just start casting it like crazy. Alright, next is Frostbite. Not Frostbite, Jaws of Ice. I'm going to put this one in the always take. If you're a druid, and I'm going to put this with the baiting bite. If you're a Winterwolf druid, this is fantastic. It basically is if you are sneak attacking a monster, which means you don't have aggro on it, so somebody else has aggro on it, and you attack it, then with this one they have to make a save or become frozen. You can freeze most monsters in the game, and it adds critical threat range or multiplier, so it's just a huge damage spell. Super useful, would recommend. And on top of that, if you're a Winter Wolf, this also has an effect in the tier 5 of the Wolf tree, which makes it so that you get temporary hit points based on your character level, which can be up to 300. And 300 extra temporary hit points is really useful, especially in Reaper mode, where healing can be kind of hit or miss, especially when you're doing it on yourself. Lesser Restoration is going to go into Scroll tier. You can cast Lesser Restoration yourself. In fact, I think it's probably the only one I would say you want to take, because this one scales off of caster level versus the other restorations, which don't. But you can definitely scroll and potion this as well. You don't need to take it. But it is useful for getting rid of fatigue when you're in Bear Druid form. It's good for getting rid of like ability point damage when you get hit with that sort of thing before you get heal or another ability that gets rid of it. Alright, so Lesser Vigor Mass is going to go in the rarely take. I don't like Lesser Vigor. I think it heals too little to be useful. And yeah, it's basically just bad. So I usually don't even take this at all during the leveling process. The only reason you would ever use these is if you're playing on elite difficulty. If you're playing on elite difficulty or low, they're not too bad, but on Reaper or higher, Reaper 1 or higher, you basically just get reduced to 0 on yourself, and that's kind of rough, and even on others, it's very, very not noticeable. Pack Aptitude, D tier. This allows you to increase the stats of your pack, so all creatures that are nearby you, by 4. It's basically one of these abilities like Cat's Grace. But it's a passive that applies to all nearby, like pets and summonables. So it's bad. So don't affect your pets and summonables. Quench. I'm going to put this in the probably sometimes learn. Quench isn't the worst. It increases your cold and lightning damage on monsters, although there is a passive from, was it one of the items from Dryad the Demigod? There's a trinket that automatically applies this spell when you cast any lightning or cold spells on monsters. Quench is quite good for that. I wouldn't really recommend casting Quench, but you can. It technically does increase your damage to monsters if you don't happen to have that trinket. The Bottled Rainstorm, that's what it is. What else is there? We've got Regenerate Mass and Regenerate. So these spells are deceptively close together. I'm going to put them both in the Always Take category, but I'm going to put Regenerate a little bit lower. They're both fantastic. Regenerate Mass is just outstanding. So Regenerate is a good spell. It's probably the best heal over time spell in the entire video game. It removes negative levels, it removes stat damage, it removes so many things, although it doesn't remove conditions like heal does, so like stun and what have you. But Regenerate Mass is insane for two reasons. One, it's a 9th level spell, and almost all the Druid 9th level spells are bad, so you can always easily fit it into your build. But on top of that, it has a near instant cast time, which means if you're a melee Druid and you're level 17, Wolf or Bear, you can just whip this out constantly. You can just throw this out whenever. It's literally just a swipe of your paw on a Bear Druid, or like a single bite as a Wolf, and then it's out. It has an almost instantaneous cast time. I have no idea why this spell casts so quickly, and it is a very, very beefy heal over time that is incredibly useful. And as an area of effect, it's so good. On top of that, this also removes damage over time effects. So if you happen to have like a bleed or a quill from a howler or something in you, this will clear that too. It is one of the few spells in the game that uniquely clears bleed effects. So very, very cool spell. Super strong. It is 9th level. The regenerate you get at 7th level spells, so level 13, is still good, and you still want to take it. But once you get Regenerate Mass, just don't take regular Regenerate. It's only 10 more mana. Just cast Regenerate Mass, because the possibility you might catch somebody else in it at the same time, unless you're exclusively soloing and you don't summon your wolf, just literally replace it. Just replace the spell. Reincarnate. Obviously, this is going to be able to always take, because it's a Raise Dead. Please take Raise Dead when you play. This raises people from the dead. Please take it. You don't technically have to, but there's no scrolls for this, so yeah. Relentless Onslaught. Always take. This is a bear attack. This is actually one of the first bear attacks we've ran into. What this does is it allows you to attack a monster and applies a debuff to the monster, where every time you hit them, they get knocked down. There's no save on this effect whatsoever, so if you apply this to a monster, they can't get back up. This is super useful for just any type of dangerous monster you can't deal with. You're doing Reaper mode, or there's a boss or a dangerous champion. You hit them with one of these, and as long as you hit them every once in a while, they just get knocked back down again, and they can't do anything. And it lasts a really long time. Very effective crowd control, single target. If there's one monster in front of you, if it's not a red name, it can't do anything, so make sure you have Relentless Onslaught as a bear. Resist Energy, I'm going to put this in probably the Sometimes Take category. I would put this in the Always Take, but I mean, it is really good. It's nice to have, but items kind of circumvent it. I'm going to put this in the Always Take. There's space. Resist Energy reduces the amount of damage you take from elemental damage. If you know what's coming up ahead, you can be like, oh, Harbor, I'm going to cast Resist Electricity for the Kobolds. Or, oh, I'm going into Enter the Kobold. I'm going to cast Resist Fire for the Kobolds, I guess. So having the proper resist can be quite nice. Rising Ire, I'm going to put this next. This is a bear ability again. You're going to always take this one if you're playing a bear. What this does is every time you get hit, you gain strength and constitution. Pretty good ability. And on top of that, not only does it last, if you have Extend, which you probably don't need to, but if you have Extend, it actually increases the duration of this spell, making it last like a whole minute. So it's just actively constantly building these stacks up, and they just stay on your character for a very long time. Rising Fury is quite nice. It's not super essential, but it does give you 10 extra strength and constitution when you're taking damage. On a tank druid, there's no reason to avoid taking this, and on a DPS, it's just free damage. Salt Ray. I'm going to put this in the Sometimes Take category, because I don't think you should take this, but there is the Salt Ray spell-like ability out of the Season's Heraldry, and I do recommend you take that. What Salt Ray does is a little bit of damage, but most importantly, a stun. When you hit a monster with Salt Ray, they have to make a save or it becomes stunned. It is one of the druid's only stuns, and it works on Reapers. Very, very useful for Reaper mode, very useful for leveling. I would recommend Salt Ray to all my friends. So Salt Ray, just salt up some people and hit them with it. Again, it's not really a damage spell. It doesn't really do damage that well, but it's pretty good for other stuff. It's good damage while leveling, I will say that. If you have the spell-like ability and you've maxed it, then you put like Maximize and Power and Quicken and everything else on it, then yeah, this is going to kill some people. But the actual base spell, you don't need to take it. Next is Shred. Right up here. Shred applies a Sunder effect, which honestly you could probably ignore. The main thing is that if you're playing as a Bear Druid, this builds up your Killer Instinct stacks, which then you can use to cast Roar to cause the area effect explosion that stuns everything. If that sounds complicated, Bear Druids basically have an ability where they generate stacks called Killer Instinct in their tree, and it gives them more damage. They get it from when they cast Shred or Maul. Is Maul in here? Yeah, Maul's in here. Put this right here. If you cast either of these two spells, you get a stack of Killer Instinct, and when you have 3 stacks, you can cast Roar, and then you explode, dealing huge sonic damage to nearby monsters and stunning everything. This effect is really strong, like unbelievably good, and it's one of the reasons why Bear Druid is one of the easiest things to level through Heroics, and on top of that, it's just a beast in Hardcore League, because anytime there's a dangerous monster, you just stun it, and you don't care. Snow Slide. I'm going to put this in the sometimes take category. Now, this is going to make a lot of people mad. Snow Slide is one of my favorite spells the whole game, but maybe I put it in the always take. I go back and forth on this. It's one of my favorite spells. I'm going to put it up here, but just listen to my explanation. Basically, this spell makes you run extremely fast on a Druid. You just zoom. You sprint away. It's so fast. You just slide through monsters, and then you get a movement speed buff. So going fast on a wolf is just really satisfying. But on top of that, anything you pass through has to make a save or become frozen. So it's extremely powerful on top of that. And if you can control it properly, you can learn to like angle it, aim it, hit multiple monsters. Like there's so many cool stuff so many cool things you can do with Snow Slide. However, it is a 9th level spell, so you need to be a 17 Druid. A lot of people, when they play Wolf Druids, they multi-class, and so they don't actually make it all the way up to 17 Druid. I personally, in pretty much every Wolf Druid build, I'm going to recommend to anyone that watches, I am going to be including a Snow Slide because it's one of my favorite spells in the whole video game. I can't recommend enough. It's so powerful, but in terms of raw damage, usually multi-classing is better for Wolf Druid, so it's a tough one. I would always take it if I'm going up there, but obviously if you don't have the ability to take it, then you're not going to. Spider Skin. I'm going to put this in the rarely take category. It technically gives you hide and natural armor during the leveling process. But the buff is kind of weak, so I wouldn't care too much. Storm of Vengeance. I'm going to put this... I mean, I guess it's in the always take category. So Storm of Vengeance, the always take category is going to be kind of weird. There's, again, the 9th level spells are really bad on Druid. You get 5 of them, and there's not enough spells in the game to accommodate filling all those slots. So let's talk about this spell. So Storm of Vengeance creates a storm. There's thunder, there's lightning, there's rain sound effects, and it makes this like physical storm. It has been significantly buffed, where now it actually does acid damage, and it hits really hard with the Call Lightning when you're inside of it, and it does a good amount of damage. I would definitely recommend using it for bosses. The only downside is it has a pretty long cooldown, and also because it's a circle, the boss has to stay inside of it, or wherever you're fighting has to stay inside of the circle, which is difficult when you don't get to control where it's going. That being said, if you are a DPS Druid, especially as a cold Druid, this is just a fantastic addition to your rotation, just slamming out all these elemental spells. But yeah, it just has a long cooldown, and if monsters are moving, it's not really super useful, so keep that in mind. Okay, so you get all of the Summon Nature's Ally spells for free. However, I'm still going to rank them as to whether you should cast them. The Dryad. It's going to go up here. I think that the Dryad is pretty useful just to cast at the beginning of any quest. She casts heal spells, and so there's really no downside to casting the Dryad. You don't really lose anything, so keep that in mind. This is a Summon Nature's Ally, so let's get rid of this. And this is Summon Nature's Ally, let's get rid of this. This one's also kind of bad. Some people like the Djinn. I'll put this in the rarely take category because it knocks people over, but it's kind of weak. I don't even know what this spell is. Is this another Summon Nature's Ally? There's not 2 Bear Druids, are there? Huh. Because I have no idea what this spell is. I think these are both Summon Nature's Ally. Sunbeam. Sunbeam's pretty good. It's useful for obliterating oozes, so I like Sunbeam. It also does a good amount of damage, light damage. Definitely want to work into your rotation. They also beefed up the damage on Sunbeam by a dramatic amount, so I would recommend Sunbeam when you have the chance. This pack spell is complete garbage. Don't ever take this pack spell, please. Thank you. Bear and Dire Bear. Okay, that makes sense. Tremor. Tremor is going to go up here with the Bear Druid spells. It's definitely one of the better ones. This is a frontal knockdown trip. It has a very short cooldown. It is a frontal AoE. It is just useful, useful, useful. I can't recommend this spell enough if you're playing as Bear Druid. Now, you're going to notice that there's a lot of spells in the Always Take category. Keep in mind, if you're a Bear Druid, you don't take any of the Wolf Druid spells in here. If you're a Wolf Druid, you don't take any of the Bear Druid spells in here. If you're either of these, you don't take Body of the Sun. You don't take Elemental Form. But if you're any of those categories, you should have these spells right away. Next is Unstoppable. D tier. So this is an 8th level spell, and what it does is it makes it so you have 100% increased fortification, so you're harder to critically hit, and you're immune to healing for 30 seconds. Which makes you very stoppable. I can't believe this is called Unstoppable. So yeah, garbage. Vigor and Greater Vigor. I'm going to put these ones at the bottom. I think that Vigor and Greater Vigor are definitely worth the take, although the second you get not Vigor and Vigor Mass, once you get Greater Vigor, you immediately replace these ones. So I think that's just an important note. I'm also going to move this one down here because I think that, the cure loses some of its value. But yeah, just keep that in mind. The second you get Vigor and Greater Vigor, Vigor Mass, Greater Vigor Mass and Greater Vigor, you're going to replace these ones. So just keep that in mind. Word of Balance. Very good spell. So what Word of Balance does is it hits a monster super duper hard based on their alignment. So if a monster is neutral, they are unaffected by the spell. If a monster is one step away from neutral, so they're either evil, good, lawful, or chaotic, they take damage. And if they're 2 steps away, they're chaotic good, chaotic evil, lawful good, lawful evil, then they take mega damage. And you know who's lawful evil? Reapers. So fantastic spell. It's got tons of uses in every quest in the game. And even if you don't play Reaper mode, Hobgoblins are lawful evil. Orcs are, I don't think they're lawful or chaotic. Honestly, I'm not sure about orcs. Also, just occurred to me. I'm just going to do that to make sure I don't lose my music here. So, great spell. Cast it all the time. Insidious Spores. D tier. I thought this spell would be kind of cool when they added it to the Druid list, but it basically does like 0 damage. That's why I'm putting it in D. I don't want people to cast a spell. It is a old Primal Avatar spell that does basically nothing. Don't cast a spell. Thank you. It costs a ton of mana and it barely hits the monsters. So, yeah. Owl's Wisdom can go down here. Panacea. So this one I'm going to put in Sometimes Take. Panacea is not bad. It's basically lesser heal. It cures all the things heal does. It just doesn't heal the health. Good until you have heal, but also you can get scrolls to replace it. So once you have heal scrolls, you don't need Panacea anymore. So I kind of go back and forth. Poison. Garbaggio. Completely useless. I have no reason why no idea why you would ever use this. Terrible. Don't use poison. Protection from Elements Mass. Now this is a great one. So you'll notice that I've said like, oh man, there's so many spells that suck, like this spell and this spell. Well, these are level 8 spells, and you're going to see more level 8 spells hitting the bottom of this list, which means you've got room for Protection from Elements Mass. Every Druid should take this. There's no competition. You're always going to have room for this, because again, how the spells are divided up amongst the 3 different, basically, play styles, Elemental Form, Wolf, and Bear. Even better, Fire and Water Elementals don't usually cast the same spells, so you've pretty much always got room for this spell. Huge defensive buff. Fantastic. Good for your whole party. No reason to not take it. Next is Sleet Storm. Sleet Storm is going to go probably in the Sometimes Take. If you can cast Freedom of Movement on everybody, which I'll put up here, then, it's not that bad as a crowd control effect, but it's not my favorite spell in the game. Monsters will cast it against you, and if you don't have Freedom of Movement, you'll see how bad it is. And don't cast this unless everyone in your party has Freedom of Movement, unless you love losing friends. Next, we have Freedom of Movement. This spell here, I put it up in the Always Take. This makes you immune to any character binding crowd control. This is hold spells, command spells. This is web. Like, so many good, incredible spells. Slow, among other things. It just makes you fully immune. Grease. You can't be greased. You can walk through sleet storms. You can walk through solid fog. There's a ton of reasons why you'd want to use this, so please use it. Yeah, somehow it doesn't make you immune to glue traps, and it also does not make you immune to snare. You're still snareable, which is silly. Cure. Hey, Cure Serious is a good spell. Turns out Cure Serious is good. Also, Death Ward. I'm going to put this up here. Death Ward is amazing. It is one of the best defensive spells in the entire game. It makes you immune to negative levels. It makes you entirely immune to negative damage, which is just great because monsters that do negative damage all the time. Enervation, as an example, will just kill you. So, fantastic spell. Cast this on yourself and your friends, and you'll make a lot of friends. Next, we have, what is this? Dispel Magic. and it's going to go right next to Greater Dispel Magic for the same reason, useful for spell words and the like. Align Fang. This is going to be probably in the Always Learn category, but at the bottom, which is if you're playing in animal form, you need to take Align Fang because this allows you to bypass good and evil damage immunities on different monsters. Good for when you're fighting demons, evil for when you're fighting angels, and just good all around, but only useful in animal form. It's a 2nd level spell, so you can use that one, so it's super good. Animal Trance. You know what? I've never cast this spell before, so I'm going to put this down in the D tier. Same with the Charm Animal. I don't like charms. If you can use this to charm vermin, so you can take over. So, for example, if you have, because vermin get no save against this, you walk into a quest. It's R10, and there happens to be a super dangerous, death-warded scorpion in a pack of scorpions. You can hit him with the Charm Animal, and then he's going to turn around and start attacking its friends. Could be helpful. Entangle, I'm going to put in the rarely take. This one is not that great. Actually, yeah, I'll put this down here. Entangle is not that great, but it does slow monsters, so it has some use. I like Entangle in the Harbor quite a bit because it just helps you get through Harbor quests, but A spell that might surprise some people, Fairy Fire. Why? Fairy Fire has a massive, massive area of effect. And what does it do? That doesn't matter. It does not matter what this spell does. What matters is that it breaks barrels in a huge range. Huge range. You just blow them up. So I can't recommend this enough. It's just so useful. You know, sorcerers and wizards get Sonic Blast, and as a druid, what do you get? Nothing? No, you get Fairy Fire. Cast your Fairy Fire and watch all those barrels explode and save yourself time. Flame Blade. Meme tier spell. So Flame Blade, what it does is it casts you conjure a Flame Blade in your hands that scales off wisdom to hit and damage. It levels with you. It's kind of useful. So maybe, I guess, sometimes take. I don't know. It's mostly just a joke spell. It's good for when you don't have another weapon. It's good for low-level caster druids because caster druid really sucks in the early levels. It just does. Most casters suck in the early levels, and this lets you have a weapon that you can get a wisdom to hit and damage with. So it is kind of useful. I guess I'll put that in the sometimes take. The problem is it's hard to do as a mainline build because monsters are immune to fire. And if you decide, okay, well, I can bypass that though. I'm a druid. That means you have to be an elemental form druid. And elemental forms don't get any critical threat range or critical multiplier effects. Only the animal forms do. So you're kind of limited. If there was a way to get like extra critical threat range or multiplier on your summonable weapons, say in Season's Herald or something, so you could use this on Flame Blade, you could use this on the Shadow Blade or something, that'd be very cool, but sadly it does not work that way, so you're just kind of limited there. Vigor, I'm going to put this one down here with the rarely take, Lesser Vigor, I don't like it. Another pack spell, garbage. Pass Without a Trace, awesome in pen and paper, garbage right here. So don't recommend Pass Without a Trace at all. Produce Flame. This spell is great for the low levels, good for the early levels, and in fact, the spell-like ability is really, really cheap because it's just 4 points into the tree. So you can max this out and use this for a good chunk of the leveling process because it also has a very short cooldown and throw all your meta magics and just blow people up. Shillelagh is amazing if you're playing a Quarterstaff Druid. So I'm going to put this in sometimes take. Basically, it's good if you're playing a Quarterstaff Druid. Everybody else, I don't know. Splinter Bolt. I think Splinter Bolt's kind of bad. So I'm going to put this probably down here in at the bottom of the sometimes take. It's technically a damage spell for Druid, and it's useful for when monsters are immune to other damage types because it does piercing. But outside of that, I don't know. It's not my favorite spell. It costs a lot. It doesn't do as much damage as something like Produce Flame here is going to be doing. So yeah. It is a no-save spell, so there is a value there. I think of Splinter Bolt as like... the best way to think of Splinter Bolt is it's like worse Scorching Ray. And Scorching Ray is also a spell that you struggle to use. Except for maybe on like a Fire Savant. So your mileage may vary on Splinter Bolt. Test it out yourself. It's just not my favorite. One of the best Druid spells in the whole game, Takedown. You might be surprised to see this spell, this level 1 spell all the way at the top. Takedown is a Wolf Druid exclusive spell, and it allows you to knock down creatures. Now, the word that I just used is really important. This is not a trip, it is a knockdown. Knockdown, it works on basically everything in the entire game. Trip, you need to be able to trip a monster, sweep the leg, take them down. But a knockdown doesn't require a trip because you're knocking something out, like onto its back. So the reason why that language is different, a Mephit is a flying creature. It has wings, and you can't trip it. But if you were to hit it with a rock, you could knock it down. And that's why this spell is amazing. You can take down on Mephits, which fly. You can take down on elementals, which are made of fire. You can take down on reapers. You can take down pretty much every monster in the entire game. This is probably the best low-level crowd control spell in DDO, and one of the best high-level crowd control spells for single target. It is absurdly useful, very, very good. It's so good, I have thought many times about using the next fall filigree set on my melee druids, which is a terrible filigree set, but it gives you extra damage against knockdown creatures, which you have here all the time. So, great spell. Make sure you use this one. It works on Reapers, works on everything, because this, as I said, it's not a trip. It is a knockdown, which makes it way better. Also, it costs 0 mana. It's it has one of the best animations in the whole game, where your wolf jumps up on somebody, as you see here, and then does a backflip. I can't recommend it enough. Great spell. Barkskin. Rarely take. The problem with Barkskin is that it scales poorly, so by the time you're level, I think 15 with it, where it gives +5, you get +5 items from level 10 items, so meh. Bear's Endurance, D tier. Cat's Grace, D tier. Another Cure. It's going to go up here with the other Cures in the Always Take, because I think Cures are too good to avoid. A Hold Animal. This is the only one I'm going to put in the Sometimes Take category for the weird animal-specific spells, because what this does is you can, unlike the Charms, you can use this on any vermin and hold them with no save. This is good on pretty much any druid, even the animal form druids. You're playing a bear or something. If there is an orange-named scorpion or an orange-named spider, so a mini-boss, that is not immune to crowd control, then you can just whip this on them and they can't hurt you back. And spiders, scorpions, and crayfish are some of the most dangerous monsters in DDO, especially once you get to the higher scaling. So it can be quite dangerous. So just, very, very useful on the back end as you level up, because this has no save against vermin. That's why I'm recommending it here. If you're playing as a wolf druid, you can be like, oh crap, there's a crazy scorpion in front of me. Boom, it's now held and it has no save on it. So keep that in mind. Jump. Always Take. Jump is a fantastic buff spell that allows your character to just jump over whatever. If you're playing as a caster, jumping allows you to be in the air out of harm's way while you're casting your spells, and also allows you to move while casting your spells without slowing your movement speed, and it's just good for climbing stuff. So jump is one of the best spells in DDO. Keep that in mind. Longstrider spells I'm going to put down here. I think the Longstrider Mask can go there, but rarely take this one. If you have no other spells for level 1, I mean, it does give you more movement speed to have Longstrider, but you can get Giar's Boots of Dashing from Keep on the Borderlands, and you can get Expeditious Boots from Korthos. So you shouldn't really need these, but whatever. Do you. Swim. One to swim fast. This Merfolk's Blessing gives you more swimming speed. I say sometimes take, because you don't take this in the other levels. Please take good spells in the other levels, but once you've moved past the need for level 1 spells, if you're a level 20 druid, you don't need pretty much any of your first level spells except for Maul and Takedown. So the rest of your spells are just free, so you can obviously have Jump, you can have Merfolk's Blessing for swimming fast, and it's just convenient for many different areas. Neutralize Poison. I like this in the Sometimes Take category because it gives you poison immunity for a longer duration, and you can cast this on your allies. It's good to have, so I like having Neutralize Poison around because it not only takes the poison off, but it makes you immune for the duration. Owl's Wisdom, going to go in the D tier here because it's a stat buff spell. Additionally, Protection from Elements. I'm going to put this in the Rarely Take category. I do not think this spell is good, especially in the presence of Protection from Elements Mass. Protection from Energy, sorry. This one, Protection from Elements, is just it scales poorly, it doesn't do a whole lot, and if you are at the point where you're in the Primal Avatar tree, where you have the extra scaling on your protection spell, you should be casting the one that does all of them and the mass, and not the individual one. So this is maybe okay for leveling, but the second you get the real Protection from Elements, don't use this anymore. Ram's Might. I'm going to go up here in terms of buff spells. It's fantastic. This is +2 strength, +2 damage. The +2 damage works on everything. So are you a bow character? Are you a throwing dagger character? Are you a melee character? Are you a crossbow character? Ram's Might gives you +2 damage and +2 strength. So the damage just works on all those things. If you're a melee, you want to cast Ram's Might. Disease. I'm going to put this in the scroll tier. You don't need to remove disease. Just get scrolls or potions. You don't actually have to have that spell on you. It's the same thing if you use a scroll. Snare. I'm going to put this in Rarely Take. I have never cast Snare, and same with Spike Trap. Actually, I think Spike Trap's going to go down here. I've never cast Snare before, but when monsters use it against you, it's pretty good, so I have to assume that maybe there's somebody out there who wants to use this. I think the spell is quite bad, but maybe there's a use for it somewhere out there. Somewhere. Does it work in your Fist Druid? Yeah, it works in your Fist Druid. We have Wolf. Get out of here, and get out of here, and Summon Nature's Ally. Actually, I think the Summon Nature's Ally Wolf one is probably pretty good. I would say use this one when you're level 1, but the rest of these are kind of bad. Get rid of this. Maybe the Lion. The Lion's okay, too. The Lion's alright. Because the Wolf and the Lion have the takedown with trip stuff. So these ones are okay. Stone Skin. Scroll tier. Don't cast Stone Skin, just get a wand. It's the same thing, but the wand is less mana, so it's really useful. And you can buy wands in the 12. So just go, if you want Stone Skin, just get a wand. Stormrage. Rarely Take. What this does, it's an 8th level spell. When you cast it, it adds damage to your spell and melee attacks, and it adds lightning damage. From testing, this damage is largely negligible. However, this also has a high mana cost. So it adds almost no damage, and it's high mana. So you might be wondering, why would you even cast this? Why is it Rarely Take instead of D tier? Because almost every melee druid doesn't use their mana pool. Like, you're never going to run out of spell points. So, at the end of the day, it's like, there's no downside. If you're waiting at a boss, and the boss is talking, and then you know when they're going to stop talking, this is kind of free damage if you cast it beforehand, but it's never something you would actively cast. So I would say it's probably fine to have here. But Stone Skin you want from wand only lasts like 5 minutes. If your Stone Skin isn't getting burnt off in 5 minutes, that means you don't need Stone Skin because you're not taking any damage. So it doesn't matter. Next is Sunburst. Always take. Sunburst is great. It blinds monsters, which is a very valuable effect. It does light damage, which is a very valuable damage type. It obliterates oozes in one hit, which is, again, very, very valuable, especially as you move into the later game, where if you're doing stuff on higher difficulties, oozes can have even more health, and they break weapons, and they're just problematic. You can get them when they start splitting. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. And finally, these instant kill Forge Wraiths and other light weak creatures, like Shadows, Forge Wraiths, and Vampires. Extremely useful, essential for the raid too hot to handle, just a great all-around spell. You should probably always take Sunburst, and if you can, probably not on a melee druid, but even if you wanted to, it could be quite useful. So highly, highly, highly recommend. True Seeing goes in the scroll tier. You could cast True Seeing, but instead you could use a scroll. It's amazing. It does the same thing, or get an item. So yeah. Tsunami. Mega high tier. Probably put this right under heal because I think heal's really good. Tsunami is the hardest hitting druid spell in the game, and it's a knockdown. What more can you ask for? It hits insanely hard. You just have a tidal wave crush over monsters and bulldoze them over. It's a knockdown, so it works on basically everything, and it does a huge amount of damage. Again, there's no downside here. There's only upside. I can't think of a single reason why you would not take it. Please take Tsunami. It's just great. Fantastic. Guarantee knockdown if quickened? No, that was the old version of Tsunami, not the new version. Next, it is Wall of Fire. Wall of Fire is going in the D tier. I mean, I guess you don't have a lot of other spells to cast as a druid, so maybe it goes down here. But Wall of Fire is an old spell. It's of the old world, where you used to stand still and fight monsters in the Wall of Fire, as opposed to fighting monsters as you go. So, this is a much better, generally going to be a much better spell if you played the game 10 years ago than it is now. You can still cast Wall of Fire. It's not bad if you're fighting a single target, but you're probably better spent, like, it costs the same mana to cast Wall of Fire and Fire Seeds, and one Fire Seeds does probably like 12 to 15 seconds worth of damage of Wall of Fire, so just cast Fire Seeds twice, you know? Yeah, I can't see a lot of reason to use this, but some people like it. And Water Breathing is going in the scroll tier. You can scroll out of Water Breathing. So I think this is it. This is how I would rearrange the druid spells. Now again, this might look intimidating. Like, I put so many spells in the always take category, but as I said, this is easily separated out. The bears take the bear spells. The wolves take the wolf spells. The elementals take the elemental spells. And then that cuts the list down to only like 10 extra essential spells. And that's going to keep going all the way down here. As a result, druids really never hurt for spells. So this list may or may not be that helpful, just because, as I said, druids can almost always take the spells that they need. They don't have to actually worry about, oh, do I have space for this? Oh, do I have space for that? Because generally you're going to have the space for every spell that you want, because their spell list is very segmented. Not every druid's taking the whole list anyway. So with that being said, that is my review. That's my tier list of all of the druid spells. Druids are easily one of the best spellcasters in the game right now, having insanely high damage, extremely good crowd control, and healing to boot on the back half, definitely making them pretty valuable. They don't do as much damage as sorcerers or alchemists, but I would argue that they have a little bit more utility in combat than a Favored Soul or a cleric while out-damaging them. So druids are very cool, and if you want to try a druid spellcaster, get in there. And on top of the fact that wolves and bears are all over the place, bears make reasonable tanks, but they do crazy high damage. Wolves do crazy high damage. They're fun to play. Druid is just a fantastic class, and if you haven't tried it, maybe this will get you started and you'll learn a little bit about some of the spells. More tier lists to come, more spell tier lists, and we'll get that as we do it. Next one is going to be Divine Spells? I don't know. There's so many spells.